Well, here we are. This is not the weekly video. This is one that I mentioned in the weekly video that we'll be doing to cover the Masan sale. It's coming up over in Bath on the 26th of June. It's an interesting sale. They've got a lot of good blue and white pieces in there. And it's really a good sale for collectors who don't always spend a huge amount of money, but want to get some very nice things at probably at a pretty reasonable price. And the sale starts off with I'll just go to the beginning of it, give you some idea. We'll go through some of the lots. Starts with this blue and white collection here. All Wanli, late Ming, some early Kangxi pieces in here, and then there's there's a Japanese bottle. Then there's more Wanli. You get down to some limestone carvings and so forth. It's an interesting, and some silks. There's some pretty good silks. There's a very nice silk robe in here we're going to talk about in a minute. But there's some things worth looking at. And the sale, as I said, is in about a week, so we have enough time to act on it. And we're going to start with the first thing is this. Now, this is a very rare type of Yongzheng period porcelain. And there's one in the British Museum. There was one that with a cup and saucer that sold at Bonham's a while back that had come from the Hartman collection in New York, and it sold for a lot of money. It sold for about $14,000. The big question on this one is this one authentic one from the period, or was it made later during the late Qing or something like that? And you're going to have to examine it very, very carefully. I don't recommend bidding a lot of money over the phone for something like this unless you've had somebody look at it pretty carefully at the beginning, because they are notoriously tricky. All right, this one looks good. The colors look pretty good. The drawing looks pretty good. But if you're interested in this, talk to Masan and feel them out on it and see if they're willing to commit to the Yongzheng date, because there have been, as we've seen lately, some extremely good copies of pieces turning up on the market. I'm not saying this is one. I'm just saying that these are the kinds of things you want to be very careful about, because this is the kind of thing that the reproduction market's going to be getting into in a big way. This looks like a pretty good bowl. The only thing I noticed about it, looking at it pretty carefully, was that the mark is not quite as neat as I would expect to see around the edges, and the foot rim seems to be gilded. Or painted. Now, maybe they did some in that way. I'm not aware of it, but normally the foot rims on these are very, very white and very carefully trimmed. Now, it could be that they had variations. Who knows? You don't know, because there's always a variation somewhere. But this is something worth looking at if you're interested in Yongzheng porcelain. All right, we'll start with that. And then get over to these. There's a whole bunch of these late Ming Wanli period dishes in here, with here or two with birds in them. I think they're particularly well done, very, very nicely painted, good, clean cobalt colors. And these are not big, as many of you know. There's the back of it. It's not totally covered with kiln grit, which is always good to see on Wanli wares. And the estimate is 200 to 300 pounds, and they measure roughly just a hair under 6 inches in diameter each. And it's a good value. That's a good value. And then hopping along over to this, you have a bunch of these cups, also late Ming Wanli period. They measure 12 and a half centimeters tall, or around, that works out to about what? Just about 5 inches tall. So they're decent size, or they're 5 inches in diameter, excuse me. They're decent size, and estimated at 400 to 600 pounds for the pair, 240 pounds to open. But very, very nice examples. And then hopping over to this, the Wanli bottle. It's a classic form. We've seen them before. And I mentioned in the weekly video, I was looking at this, I was kind of very impressed by how thin the mouth of this vase is, how delicately it's done, if you look at it very, very carefully. And then it has these very nice sort of beaded Buddhist bead patterns running down the side, and then getting down here to the pendants. And then below the pendants, you have animals and woodland settings and so forth, birds and butterflies and whatnot, and alternating panels. And then the beadwork begins again and continues down to a ribbon spreading out at the bottom. And then you have the foot. This is a very interesting vase. It's quite nicely done. It measures 31 centimeters in height, so it's about 12 and a half inches tall. It's estimated reasonably, though, 12 to 1,500 pounds, or 12 to 1,500, they got it in euros, I guess here, 12 to 1,500 euros, with a 700 euro opening bid, which is about $900. It should get there. It should bring, these lately have been bringing anywhere from $1,500 to $2,300, depending on the auction. But it's a very attractive one, and it looks like it's a good shape. And you don't often see ones with this long, skinny neck that haven't been broken because they are very prone to breaking, as many of you know. And then over to this nice big peony charger, late Ming Dynasty, rather nicely done. Also, Wanli. These are often referred to as Swatow chargers, and over the years I've had them. I've had many of them. And this one, if you've owned these before, you know this one is particularly well drawn. The cobalt on some of these big chargers in this pattern, the blue tends to bleed a lot. And you have sort of runny areas because they overglazed a bit because they weren't being as careful as they should have been, I suspect, because they were knocking them out for export. This one is quite meticulously done, and it's got this sort of a nice, these square sort of H patterns in the alternating scenes between the cartouches with the flowers and so forth, and then you have this exotic bird in the middle perched on a branch. It's quite attractive, and the back of it looks pretty good for Swatow. Does have a line in the body here. That's a separation gap. That doesn't look like damage. It looks like that's something that happened in the kiln, which wasn't unusual for these. These were these were big pieces of porcelain, and they often gapped a little bit during the cooling process as the piece was contracting and the glazes were hardening up. It's estimated at just 500 to 800 pounds, or 5 to 800. Is that? Yeah, I guess it is pounds. It's hard to read. It's so tiny. 500 to 800 pounds with a 300-pound opening bid. It measures. How big is this thing? 43 centimeters in diameter. So that's about 17 inches wide, roughly. 17-inch plate. Very attractive. And then this unusual thing. This is a miniature Kendi. As I said on the weekly video, this was one of the pieces we talked about. It just struck me as being so unusual for its size. It's under 5 inches tall. And if you've owned Kendis, if you own some Kendis, you'll know that most of them are anywhere from 7 or 8 inches all the way up to 11 inches tall. They can be quite large. This was uniquely small. I'm sure they made others. I'm sure if you look around in institutional collections in particular, you'll find some this size, but you won't see them often. I haven't seen one this size in many, many years in an auction or anywhere else. And I don't necessarily see all of them, but I see a lot of them. And this one is nicely done, and the estimate seems awfully reasonable. 200 to 300, or opening bid of $158, and so 200 to 300 pounds. That's about $240 to $350 is the estimate for it, which seems perfectly reasonable given its rare size. If you collect Kendis, you probably want to buy that because you're not going to get a chance to buy another miniature anytime soon. And then the scroll weight was another thing I talked about because I liked it. I just like it. It's got this very nice kirin on the top. It's early Kangxi period. They're dating it as 17th to 18th century. It looks like it was probably done in the the 1680s or 90s to based on the color and the way it's drawn and the workmanship on it and the scrolls and so forth. It has sort of like a transitional holdover effect, and the texture of the paste is quite nice on the bottom. It's an excellent shape, and estimated at 200 to 300 euros. Again, they have a lot of things with the 200 to 300 euro estimates. And then over to this very nice gray limestone figure of a Buddha. They're dating it to Northern Wei Dynasty, about 6th century. And it measures, how big is this thing? 100 centimeters tall. So it's about a little over about 3.5 feet tall. It's pretty good size, but it's beautifully carved. This is a very, very lovely carving. And it does appear to be authentic. You need to, talk with them a little bit about it to see why, how and why they authenticate it the way they do, because it's stone carvings, and stone carvings are tricky, but it looks good. I must say, the facial expression is good. The eyes are placed nicely, tall brows above the eyes, the hair, the head, all of it looks good. The back of it looks fine. It's sort of rustic because it would have been up against a wall. They didn't finish them on the backs for that reason. The estimate is 1,000 to 1,500. Let's see, what else are they saying on it? You might ask them where it came from if they're willing to tell you. Because that's a good looking thing. If they seem very convinced that it's okay, these stone pieces are difficult, but they dated it, and if they dated it, it means they're very comfortable with it because they don't throw dates around lightly at this company. Some companies throw them around on it. They put Tang on everything, and it never is. This looks fine. So I would go with them on all that. And then the stone guardian figure, Tang or slightly later, a nice Tang figure. This is one of those door guardians that you see. There's usually they're done in pairs, and they're to keep out evil spirits and so forth. This one is a very nice one. It's not enormous. It's a how big is this one? This one is a little over. It's about 14 inches, 15 inches tall, including the stand. So the figure itself is around a foot tall, estimated at 1,000 to 1,500. Again, I think 1,000 to 1,500 is sort of their catch estimate for stone statues. 600-pound opening bid. It's a nice thing. It's got a great look to it. The surface on it looks very good. Pull it right in. Good facial expression. The surface looks fine. Um, you know, it looks good. It looks nice to me. It's got some losses. Obviously, the hands are missing and so forth, but that's not unusual on these. And it's worth taking a look at if you like sculptures. And then over to the silks. You've got this silk, which I really, really like a lot. It's a coral ground with gilt thread of dragons on it. They're about 5 or 6 feet long each, and the estimate is quite reasonable at 400 to 600 pounds. They should do a good bit better than that. You can see it a little bit. Gold on red is very hard to photograph. You can see, like over here, a little light caught it, so you can see the patterning in it much better than you can on this one. And the patterning is there. It's just that the light didn't hit it because of the way the fabric hangs. But this looks quite nice. And looks to be in quite good shape as well. It was the estimate, 400 to 600 pounds. Very, very nice. And then you have this jacket. Now this form of jacket it's got the dragons on it like you see in court robes, but notice the sleeves. They're very bulbous and heavy. And there's sort of a debate sometimes, I guess, among robe people whether this is a wedding jacket or a theatrical robe. My personal feeling is that it doesn't look like a theatrical. It looks like a something it would be worn in a wedding for a very wealthy person, a very upper class, upper status individual in the Chinese culture. Most of the theatrical robes I've seen aren't done. One, they aren't always of such great quality, and they're not generally done in this pattern. But really caught my eye was the lattice pattern on this. I think is quite exceptional. Here it is, this sort of linked lattice pattern of these ruyi heads forming each sort of cartouche with the endless knot in the middle. And the endless knot also makes me think that it might be for a wedding. But very nicely done dragons, very tightly sewn with gold thread. All the way around. You can really see it. It's in very nice condition. The red is still good on it. Even the pinkish areas here haven't faded at all. So it doesn't look like this thing has ever been exposed to much sunlight in any way. There's a tiny, tiny little spot right there. Looks like a pinhole. But that's about it. That's nothing to worry about. And then you have this very nice wave pattern at the bottom, which is fairly classical with the crashing rocks. And then you have all these gold thread waves in the middle here with bats flying over them and so forth. Yeah, I don't think this is a theatrical robe. The patterning doesn't strike me as that. It strikes me as much more likely to be a wedding jacket for a wealthy Chinese man. Beautifully done, wonderful, wonderful weaving, and estimated at 3,000 to 5,000 pounds. It should bring that. It's a very nice piece of silk. It's got 20 people watching it. I suspect it'll get there, but it's a very good example. It's sort of a rare type too, and it's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 dragons on it. Did they mention how many there were? Oh, 10 dragons. Wait a minute. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There must be more on the back for some reason. I don't know why. I'm gonna check that. Hold on. Just want to see if there's 10 dragons on it. It looks like 8 to me. Oh, they're on the backs of the sleeves. Okay, there are 10. All right, that's it. Anyway, that's the jacket. And there's also a very nice bright yellow. This is very pretty and rather unusual. You don't see yellow skirts very often. This is a nice one. It's not an imperial skirt, but it's a very pleasing color. and the silk work on it is quite nice. But the silk looks to be in very, very good shape, and you don't always see them in such great shape, I have to say. Sometimes they're tatted around the edges and so forth. But this yellow ground, I think, is quite attractive. And is it damask? Let me double check it. It doesn't look like a damask ground, but boy, the needlework is good on it, isn't it? Very nice needlework. And estimated at 200 to 300 pounds. That's it might be a little on the low side, but in the past we've seen good skirts bring $400 to $700. So we'll see how it does. But it's a nice looking thing, either way. And then this little goo formed vase. This is charming. It's 11 centimeters tall. It's 4 inches, just a little over about 4.5 inches tall. It's of course based on an early bronze form. And these goo form vases were more typically made, starting at around 9 or 10 inches all the way up to, 20 inches. This one's unusually small. It's a miniature version, and they've dated it as being late Qing to early Republic. I think that's probably about right. Nice coral ground on it. But it's got this very good soft blue, aqua blue in the middle. Very often in the late Qing dynasty, when they went to this color, it ended up looking more like a harder turquoise color. It looked a stronger color. But the light blue, I think, is very appealing. And that was more typical of the interiors of trumpet vases and porcelain vases in general that were done during the Qianlong period in the 18th century and a little bit in the Zhaijing. But they went away from this very soft, almost marine blue, it seems, and it got a harder turquoise color that you often see on these. All right, but this one looks good. The bottom of it is unmarked, but it looks fine. There's a little bit of orange peel and waviness to the glaze, which is normal. But if you like miniatures, buy this and buy the Kendi. They'll fit in a shoebox if you got to ship them. And then over to this. This is really unusual. This is a Kingfisher and buffalo hide figure of an immortal, and it's one-dimensional. It's thin. I want to turn this on its side. I thought this was a neat relic. This is a relic. There's the back of it. All right, it came in that little wooden box. Looks to be probably mid-19th century or something. Look how thin it is. All right, so it's done like a hair. It's done sort of the way they did these Kingfisher hairpins, but this one, the worker went a little wild and turned it into a sort of a wall doll, as it were, and that apparently is buffalo hide, the face, and then would be stained and painted and decorated. It's not in perfect condition. It does have some rough edges to it, but it's really unusual, and it's an immortal floating on a cloud, and it's estimated at 600 to 800 pounds. And it measures, where's the height on this thing? 26 centimeters. Oh, it's pretty good size. So it's about 10 inches tall. That's a good size thing for a Kingfisher piece. And but I love the way they did the clouds, all of it. This is a great object. This is just a very appealing object. It's not perfect, but boy, it's interesting. And you don't see these very often. And it's always fun to buy something very unusual. And this is pretty unusual. You could probably find other examples of it, mostly in old museum collections. This is the kind of stuff that would come over, 100 years ago. They would bring back from China things like this as keepsakes. And it even has this box, apparently, which is quite interesting. But you're not going to, if you like this kind of thing, you should probably buy it because you're not going to see another one anytime soon. And there's the old wooden box that it came with. The box is very nicely made, by the way. Notice it's got dovetails and everything on it. There you go. So that's a pretty great thing. The estimate is 600 to 800 pounds with a 360-pound opening bid. So they're saying it's worth probably somewhere between $700 and $900. And I think they're probably just trying to put a number on it because how do you estimate something like this? Try to find a comp for that. You're not going to find it. But if you like really cool, interesting things that you think would be fun to own and maybe put on a wall in your own house in a good spot with a little light over it, this is a good thing to buy. And then you have this other coral ground bowl, scroll pattern, also probably late Qing to early Republic period, but very nicely done. The color looks good. There's the side, the potting, the shape is very typical of late 19th century ceramics with that stepped edge that goes down and then down under it and then slight flare to the foot underneath. And let's see if there's a good picture of the bottom on this. Oh, there you go. It's got some sort of Shao character, but it looks fine. The color looks good. It doesn't look like a reproduction or anything to my eyes. It's 400 to 800 pounds, 400 to 600 pound estimate, and it measures 4, 5, about 5 inches wide, roughly. It seems like a nice thing. So there's some good coral ground pieces in this sale. That by this and that nifty little hoop, little goo-form vase. And then the last thing is this sort of an interesting Mandarin scene strap handle teapot from around 1800. And it's sort of very unusual subject matter for one of these. This is not the typical, because this is a Chinese trade. This is a Chinese export teapot. But look at the scene on it. It has a very interesting Chinese domestic scene that's very, very well painted. And I like it's got the classic big strap handle teapots. And these aren't teapots they really used in China. This was strictly an export thing. So it's kind of unusual to see this particular scene on here done in this way, very much in the Chinese taste. And then this very nice gilded lotus blossom and vine decoration around the top. And then they extended the gilding over onto the handle and then just the tip of the spout. And the spout looks like it has been chipped, which is always a miracle because there always seems to be a little chip on those spouts. And it's a nice looking thing. The estimate is 500 to 800 with a 300 pound opening bid, but it's a rather unusual teapot. That's a very interesting one. If you're a teapot buyer, you might want to look at that pretty carefully because it's sort of a rare type, an unusual type. It's very, very atypical, and it measures 24 centimeters in width, which is around 10 inches. Just a little under 10 inches wide. So it's decent, full size. Nice. It's actually a little bigger than full size, I guess, technically, but very, very nicely done. Very, very nicely done. And that sort of covers the sale. There's not, I don't want to go through the whole thing, but there's some interesting bits in there. And the auction house gets interesting, unusual things like that Kingfisher piece. This is what they do. And when you're in the English countryside and you're dealing with old English country houses the way they do, and I know they do, you get exposed to some good things, and they're certainly worth keeping an eye on too. Always watch for their sales because you never know what they're going to come up with because they've in the past had very interesting objects worth looking at and buying and so forth. I tried to buy a few things. I didn't get any luck, but if you're in the UK, it's certainly a sale to go and see and check out. All right, so that covers that. Thank you for watching. I wanted to get this out because I like to pay attention to what they're doing over there. They're nice people. Again, nice people. I like to talk about folks that I like that are earnest in what they're doing and do a good job. And there's a few of them out there that in particular I think achieve what they want to achieve as far as customers and dealing with people nicely. So. Anyway, that's just my view of it today. All right. Have a great weekend. Subscribe here if you haven't so far. We'll be back next week with a couple of videos. We're heading to New Hampshire in a couple of days. We'll be up there. We'll do the videos from up in the woods, and we'll see you next time. All righty. And thanks all of you for watching. Bye-bye.